just to start with, in today's webinar, we are going to talk about how to engage with India's Gen Z, that is the next generation. People born incidentally after 1998, as they put it. I fall under the Gen Z on the very brink of it, really torn between should I call myself a millennial or a Gen Z, but I think I can, for the sake of the conversation, I'm the one representing the rest of the Generation Z audience in this panel. Now, my name is Sanat Srivastav. I take care of growth marketing at MyOperator and HeoPhone. And today in this panel, we have with us, starting clockwise from my screen, we have Pratanu Mohanty, who is the head of revenue maximization at Big FM. Then we have Rimjim Ray, who is the group CMO at MyOperator and HeoPhone. And of course, we have Kaushik Banerjee, who is the co-founder and CEO at Flutrr, the dating app for the Desis of India. Now, I will just begin my discussion with a very, very basic overview of things. And I'll just set the tone before we go ahead that the end goal of this conversation that I had in mind is that to figure out for the viewers who are watching this and will eventually watch this, that what will be those channels and then what will be the content on those channels that will actually engage, attract, and retain Gen Zs on any platform. If you have a service or a platform or a product whatsoever, but these three things, what will be the channels and what will be the content around those channels that will do this for the next generation. So to start with, Kaushik, because with the Huma Qureshi in towards your side, I think you deserve the right to go first. But see, Flutter facilitates, according to my research, it facilitates over 15,000 matches every day and engages Gen Z on one of the most, I think, discussed topics among that particular generation, which is dating. So what do you think in terms of dating? Because when we talk about dating, we know two other major apps, nothing beyond. What do you think other dating apps were missing in terms of CX that you thought, I should come in and then capture the audience, because you largely talk about that this is the Indian way of dating?
Yeah. To answer your question, I mean, I'll just go back and maybe talk a little bit about what's happening in India over the last maybe 7, 8 years, 10 years. So, India got liberalized in 1991 thanks to Dr. Manmohan Singh and PV Narasimha Rao, and foreign capital started flowing in, the economy opened up, GDP started growing, all those things happened. Now, also in the last 7 or 8 years, what has happened is that the telecom revolution has really taken off. Okay, right? So, I mean, it's largely led by Jio. Okay, right? So you have probably one of the world's cheapest data available in the remotest corners of the country. Okay, right? So you go to very remote corners of the country, there is high-speed internet with one of the cheapest data in the world. Okay, right? So also coupled with this, the Chinese smartphones have been imported, and today you can get a smartphone for 5,000, 6,000 rupees, that too on an EMI. Okay, right? So you go to the remotest corners of the country, you will see young women in distressed jeans and t-shirt, which you would not have seen 7, 8 years back. Okay, right? And all of them have smartphones. Okay, right? And they are consuming humongous amount of content. India is today the largest video consumption market in the world. It is 5 times larger than China. Okay, right? So as a result of which, what has happened is the aspiration levels of the youth, even in the small towns like, let's say, Jhansi or Meerut, or I don't know, maybe even Trichy or Madurai, are becoming very similar to the aspiration levels of the kids of the large towns. Okay, right? So when we were young, when we were in college or school, and I'm 55, so I'm talking about maybe 35 years back, there was no TV, there was no internet. Okay, right? So what happened in US, we got to see it in the newspaper the next day morning. Okay, right. Today, what happens in Times Square, the girl in Jhansi sees it in 3 seconds later. Okay, right. So because of which the aspects of our generation was a generation where the aspirations of the youth were very heterogeneous. Okay, right. Because of the difference in the innovation diffusing from the west to the east and all of that. Today, it is almost a homogeneous youth group, Gen Z. Gen Z is very homogeneous. The aspiration levels, their values, their lifestyles, or the aspirable lifestyles are becoming very similar. Okay. Now, what is because of this rising aspirations, uh, even the youth in the small towns are looking for romantic partners online. Okay, right. But there's a difference. If you study the romantic spectrum, okay, right, and that is where Bharat comes in and building for Bharat comes in. At one end of the spectrum, you have English dating apps like Tinder, Bumble, Truly Madly, all of that. Unfortunately, they become synonymous with casual dating, flings, and hookups. Okay, right. At the other end of the spectrum, you have the matrimonial apps, which is Shadi.com, Bharat Matrimony, and they are mostly used by parents to find brides and grooms for their children. Okay, right. So they are more like arranged marriages. Okay, right. Now, with the rising aspiration of the youth, they do not want arranged marriages. Okay, right. But at the same time, their cultural values and their cultural sensibilities also prevent them from accepting casual dating. Okay, right. And flings and hookups. I'm talking about the large mass of people in Bharat. I'm not talking about the girl in Alipur or the boy in Pedder Road. Okay, right. Because of which they do not want arranged marriages. They do not want casual dating. So that
Correct.
is the mark, and they're non-English speaking. 90% of India don't speak English. Okay, right. 82% of Google searches in India are in the vernacular language. Okay,
Okay.
right. So only 9.8% Indians speak English. Although India is the second largest English speaking country in the world. Okay, right. Only 9.8% Indians speak English, 91% don't. So there's this huge mass of almost 400 to 500 million youth who are non-English speaking in the smaller towns of India, which is what we call Bharat. Okay, right. And they are moving away from arranged marriages, but they're still not very open to casual dating, flings, and hookups. And that is the market which we are engaging. So we are
Okay.
engaging them in their mother tongue. Okay, right. Because that is where they're most comfortable with. And positioned not as a dating app, but as a relationship app, as an app for finding deeper and meaningful connections for long term love relationships. And
Okay.
that resonates with the youth of that. Right? A,
So
they're
if
getting
I
something, yeah. So A, they're getting something in their own language, and B, they know that we are going to find girls, or girls are saying we are going to find boys who are more interested in longer term relationships. Not, you know, we meet and we hook up and then we separate. No, that's not the culture that Bharat is still open to.
makes sense. So essentially two needs of people then. One is that they want to talk in or converse in vernacular mediums, whichever their language is. Uh, and then secondly, they also want long-term relationships, eventually culminating into marriage, apparently.
May or may not
May
culminate
or
to
may not,
marriage,
but expectations
but
are
the
such that
intention is longer term. Yeah.
intention is longer term.
Yeah.
So
So I
now,
hope you've seen the movie 12th Fail.
sorry, which one?
12th Fail, Vikant Masi.
Yeah.
Okay, I just saw it 2 days back. It's a small town girl and a small town boy, and yeah, they are dating each other, but their intention is to have a long term stable relationship. Right?
Correct.
So that's Bharat.
Makes sense. So, okay, let's then bring it down to Bharat only because even with Rimjim, since I've been working with her, when we built Heophone, it was only largely about Bharat instead of India, as we call it. These are two
Correct.
Indias that we talk about, right? But before I move on, I want to understand in terms of CX, that is customer experience. So these are the needs that you cater to, Kaushik, and then you build a business out of it. But if I were to put a finger on that one thing, or if I were to ask you to do that, what would be that one thing in customer experience that brings people back every day to your application so that they use it and continue using it?
Okay, so two, three things. I can't put a finger on one thing, but I'll tell you two, three things.
Sure, sure.
One is, we are in the relationship business. So in relationship, if women are not there on the platform,
Okay.
then men will not stay. Simple. Okay, right? Now, when you're onboarding small town women, right, and you have to have tech and proprietary tech for ensuring safety and privacy of these women. Okay, right?
Sure.
So I'll just give you two stories, okay, right, which will help you understand what I'm talking about. So we had built some proprietary tech and we launched Flutter. But there was a girl from Jhansi, she wrote to us, she said that, her cousin had seen her on Flutter, okay, right,
Mhm.
and went and told her parents, and her parents gave her hell, okay, right. So we had to build a feature called block known contacts, okay, right, where you can block anybody on your phone book from seeing your profile on Flutter. So that's CX, because then the woman knows that I'm on Flutter, I'm safe, I'm anonymous, I'm private. Okay.
Correct. That.
Story number two, again one small town, Itarsi in
Mhm.
Madhya Pradesh. A boy saw the girl's location, it's a very small town. So a boy saw a girl's location and tracked her down to her house. Okay, right?
Okay.
And landed up there saying, you haven't accepted my like or
Request.
whatever it is. Okay.
Mhm.
So we had to introduce a feature called ghost mode. Okay, right. So this ghost mode is when girls can say Itarsi, but it will not show their location. Okay, right. Again, that's a CX feature, which so proprietary tech for safety and privacy of women is very important. That is one thing which makes Flutter very different and which Flutter makes it unique for Bharat. Okay, right. And of course, we are in the process of patenting these features. The second thing is the business model or the revenue model. Okay, right. Now let me spend about a couple of minutes on this. Most English dating apps have a monthly costly premium subscription, 700 rupees, 800 rupees, 1000 rupees.
Correct.
Now you see, when I'm taking a subscription from, say, a Netflix, okay, right, I know that there is a content library, okay,
Mhm.
right, and I'm going to get access to that content library. Okay. When I'm taking a subscription on a dating app, it's a gamble, okay, right? It's a roll of the dice, okay, right?
Mhm.
I may or may not even find a love partner or a match.
100%.
This does not work with the youth of Bharat. Okay, right. A, they can't pay 700, 800,000 bucks a month. And B, they don't want to gamble. Okay, right. So what did we do? We said, okay, no subscription. Okay, right. You use the app, but there are specific things on the app you use for 30 rupees, 50 rupees, 70 rupees by paying that money. Okay, right. But there, the exactly what you're getting for what you're paying is clear to you. Okay, right. So suppose I want to boost my profile so that no women can see my profile. I pay 30 bucks and I
Mhm.
actually give him data on how many more women have seen his profile. So when I'm paying 30 bucks, I know I'm going to get this. Okay, right. If I'm going to say compliments to a girl or send love quotes to a girl, okay, right, I can send maybe two for free and then I run out of it. I run into a time wall. So either I
Mhm.
wait for 24 hours or I buy two more for 25 rupees. Okay, right.
Mhm.
Again, here the equation is very clear. I pay 25, I get this. Okay. So
Correct.
microtransactions. Now, what happens with microtransactions is A, only 3 to 4% of English dating apps are paying users. On Flutter, more than 20% are paying users. Okay, right. Number one.
Right.
Number two, because I've got no money to be paid to use the app mostly, my longevity on the app goes up. Okay, right. I use the app for a longer period of time. I don't exit. Okay, right. And If that happens at a very large scale, then you can start monetizing eyeballs through advertising as well at a later stage. Right?
Correct.
So when you
100%.
so when you build CX for Bharat, you have to understand what their paying capacity is, how do their minds work, and if you want them to come back to the app daily, how do you build a business model and a revenue model around their thinking and their side?
That's very interesting. That is 100% adaptability to what is out there in the market.
Yeah.
I will ask Pratanu about something that comes with adaptability. Me and Pratanu were talking about it yesterday when we were discussing what this webinar will be about. That these vernacular mediums, since the word did come up, which are the traditional media, right, Pratanu? As we were talking about yesterday, the FM, newspapers, magazines, so to say, traditional media, a very wide assumption, and I could be very wrong with this specifically, but a very wide assumption is that the youngsters are not very inclined towards reading a newspaper or listening to radio, maybe because they have their YouTube musics or Spotify apps installed. They plug it in their cars and they listen to whatever song they want. They don't want to have those ads run on FM and then interrupt their music, or any RJs talking about something. Same with newspaper. They don't want to wait till tomorrow, or they don't want to read through the entire big newspaper that is too tough to hold. So then, how do these places adapt? How does Big FM, for example, change given today's Gen Z audience and still appeal to them while being relevant to the larger mass that they were catering already?
You're putting me in the spot. And I have to talk on behalf of the entire conventional media right now.
Yeah,
See,
go ahead.
irrespective of the media mix, a particular media or the media mix, attracting, connecting, retaining anybody today is very difficult. That's basically because everybody is so well aware about things around. Even if I'm saying these three terminologies, which are like attracting, connecting, retaining in the same breath, they are like three different universes and almost a major portion of the marketing and the pre-revenue funnel. And that's the topic is all about. It's a very complicated topic and you have put me in the spot and that's completely okay. I'll give you an example. The cancellation of Ola, Uber and the Autowala saying no is only a reflection of the complexity in achieving these three terminologies and the business process that we are talking about. And say, for example, you want to achieve these three for the generation Z, it's even a more complicated affair, especially because of the intrinsic attributes unique to this cohort. Somebody says sound problem. Are you not able to hear me?
It's audible. It's a little less, but I think with earphones, it's audible. It's audible to me at least.
Okay. What about others?
You can be a little louder. That's all I can ask for.
Yeah. I was talking about achieving these three terminologies for the generation Z is very complicated affair, especially because of the intrinsic attributes unique to this cohort. I strongly believe that this generation has made a unique progression from the so-called Lala land to the real Lala world. And these are like my theories that I keep on talking about. So the earlier Lala land for me is more of a mental state of, say, a vanity fair, illusion, and slightly delusional to some extent. But this real Lala world is actually a combination of the four different personal triggers, which are like core to the human existence. And the youth is absolutely aware about things around. For me, this real Lala world means life, aspiration, love, and attention. The youth today, the generation Z, has been able to maximize on the attention and has been able to monetize attention to the largest extent possible compared to any other generation that has ever existed. And where does radio place in all of this entire media mix? Radio is an emotional influencer with the power to enhance brand perceptions at a very subconscious level. In radio, we ourselves allow somebody to take control of the content we want to listen to. Hence, this perspective of allowing somebody else to take control of what we are doing is absolutely called influencing to some extent. And even if the Z generation is quite independent, I believe they still rely on a certain influence, maybe a guru to a certain extent. They look up to a guru to remain real. Somebody they can look up to, someone who is able to validate the manifestations in the mind of the youth and the generation Z. And again, even if the Z generation are digital natives, lots of physical touch points disguised as experiential setups, but working as marketing funnels, maybe the go-to strategy for conventional media, and also combined with a strong call to action on air, on digital, on print, and also for WhatsApp for that matter, because it's absolutely interactive and personal.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, on the face value, these are the few things that come to my mind.
But just think, see, so one thing that I feel personally, what might be working for radio still, given that at times even I have started tuning in to radio when I'm like doing shorter distances in my car, when I don't really want to pick out my phone from my pocket, plug it into my device, or even turn on Bluetooth if it is not always on. There's still some connectivity that I have to initiate manually on my phone. Only then it gets connected, and then I'm able to listen to whatever music I want to. So I'm quickly like, okay, I'll just scroll through the channels that are there, something playing music. And in between all of that, I do listen to certain RJs doing certain shows. Few of them might click. And I tend to believe that the world usually goes in full circles. So we might say that abhi purane gaane are not something that people want to listen. But that's not true. The younger generation, they just big up the older songs. Say the newer generation would pick up something from an old Shah Rukh Khan movie. Might not go as far as Lata Mangeshkar maybe. Will pick up something from an old Shah Rukh Khan, Amir Khan movie. Would want to listen to it. And because radio is a very good mix of all these songs and media, people tend to go back to it. But one good factor I feel is RJs and the people representing it. So, in terms of CX, when it comes to things like radio or newspaper, do you think it is very important to choose the right person to, dictate your mission to this particular audience in today's time? I mean, it was not very necessary that you bring Shah Rukh Khan on air to convince, say, my dad or even my young elder brothers. But right now, if you bring Bhuvan Bam on air or a cool RJ, like for example Nitin at Big FM, everybody listens to Nitin. Doesn't matter what age group. They are like, this is the fun guy I want to listen to. So, do you think that matters a lot?
It matters because that's what we were talking about, that even if the Generation Z is about independence and extremely being very flexible and on their own, but they still believe in that subtle reliance on somebody, that somebody could be an influence from an outside of their world they're living in. And that influence could come from anywhere. The influence could come from digital newspaper, it could come from a real person in the office, it could come from family, but radio, because radio is touching your emotional senses to a large extent, and it is also giving you a space where absolutely you are not being cognitive, but you are still being forced into getting into a space of slightly being cognitive to some extent. You are being forced to rethink on how things work. So I think that influence that you are talking about, yes, radio has got lots. Radio always boasts about the radio jockeys that we have. All 120 radio jockeys on Big FM are our real influencers. They exactly understand the pulse of the nation, the pulse of where they belong to, and basically because radio is so spread wide and we are hyper local to a large extent. Currently, Big FM is present in 58 different stations. All
Correct.
58 different stations have got multiple radio jockeys, and they themselves are celebrities in themselves. And say, for example, a certain place doesn't have a celebrity, the first celebrity that anybody will look up to a radio jockey. So that's the kind of influence that people have, and also because Kaushik was talking about the localization and the Indianness, and the love towards the route that people are coming from. I also, when I was going through the data that we get from the revenue reports and also from publications, so I think today what has happened, the Generation Z has started to take pride of the origin they have come from. And
Hmm.
basically, because of the pandemic, the millennials and the Generation X, because they had a very stable setup and the family and EMIs to pay, they could not go back to the place of origin. The Generation Z had lots of flexibility to go back to the place of origin, and they completely take pride in doing that. And because of the shifting of people from the place of work to their place of origin, what has happened is the buying behavior has also shifted. Because the buying behavior has shifted, the data shows that lots of burning of radio and the radio, lots of ad consumption today is happening in tier two cities.
Correct.
Earlier, before the pandemic in 2019, 19, 20, it was all happening in Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Kolkata. Today, it is all happening in tier two cities. The top of the chart being Indore, Surat, Kota, Nagpur. These are the cities which have really gone up. So, which means that today, what has happened? All of these people who used to migrate from their place of origin to the place of work have now started taking pride in the place of origin and staying there and looking up to the people who are already there, popular, and are able to influence. And out of that cohort, radio jockeys are very important influencers to have in their particular city.
100%, 100%. I think radio jockeys have done something that has extended every brand's reach, be it Big FM, Red FM, whichever one, or Fever, that they themselves have very good social identities. You know, they are
Absolutely.
called to certain events
Yeah.
in their local areas. So if you, I'm in from Lucknow, so Lucknow ke radio jockeys would be called to certain event openings because they are stars in their own mind. I'm like, you work at Red FM, Lucknow is wow. Somebody is like the Sharma ji's son that is so prodigious. You wow man, you're working as a radio jockey. It's such a cool thing. And I think radio jockey, personally, I feel that radio jockey is that one profession that was cool long back, also 30 years, 50 years back, also. Yeah, if you're a radio jockey, you're very cool. Even today, if you become a radio jockey, you're like one of the super cool guys that, hey, you do radio jockeying. Nice, man. So that is something
Yeah,
that is already there. And they have
absolutely.
taken to Instagram, be it Abhinav, be it Nitin, fabulous work.
Just to add to that, when we advertise, our regional influencers, influencers, Tamil influencers, Telugu influencers, Kannada influencers, Punjabi influencers, they work wonders for the brand because
Good.
they talk in the language and in the cultural nuances of that audience. I mean, just
And
to
the
add to that point, yeah.
generation is taking pride in that. Very, very, very true. I
Yeah.
mean, the older generation may or may not, but this one is definitely taking it.
And
Rinjan,
this
I would.
also calls for a slightly important understanding. I mean, this also to do with what Flutter has really achieved. And this entire coming out of box and trying to create a parallel to Tinder in a vernacular language. I'm just trying to create an analogy to what I mean the product that we have in the discussion today. So this also means that if people have started taking pride in the place of origin, so this completely means that it is not only the origin, the land, the culture, everything comes along with it. The entire ecosystem,
Absolutely.
the pride of origin comes along with it. This is the absolute prime time for entrepreneurs to be trying to Indianize and localize the offerings to whatever extent possible. Because this is a time when the acceptance level is the highest. Products like Flutter, ShareChat, Seco are great examples of the same. And out of all of this, radio is the highest example. Now, say for example, Big FM is present in 58 different cities, 31 different languages. We have been believing in the pride of origin and this power of influence and local influences for a long, long time.
True.
Yeah.
That's immense here. I myself have moved back to Lucknow. Matlab, I think an example sitting in in this meeting itself is I moved back to Lucknow like 3 months back because I was like enough of Delhi and metro cities. I can go back and build something in Lucknow itself, push the city. But yeah, coming to Ranjan, I think we haven't spoken to you since I started this meeting, but that is for one reason that I wanted to set a tone that what is being going on. Now, Ranjan, what I want to understand from you because you come from a company that sells technological solutions to communication. And then it has been doing because I work with you, I know that it is from the smallest scales to the largest ones. You are particularly dealing in calling and WhatsApp. WhatsApp being, I think, the go-to medium of the current generation for anything. If I am assuming right, emails is something that our Gen Z uses the least, followed by maybe calling and then WhatsApp. WhatsApp is like immediate. Say something, it's WhatsApp's done. If you could order stuff from Swiggy, just WhatsApping Swiggy the items, you would be very happily doing it without thinking. So then, Revenu, what do you think are the channels that you have seen working for all these brands, B2B, B2C, irrespective of that?
Yeah, I know while we're talking about Gen Z, I think generally the behavior, at least, well, urban areas have definitely shifted, but, thanks to the insights from a bigger from Flutter, we also understand that the shift happening in the larger part of Bharat. So the shift has happened. And if you see this, and this is not a new shift, it's probably a shift that we're seeing more now. We're talking about more now. It's been happening for the last 10 years steadily, where people are more comfortable in chatting. In fact, or even posting on social media than actually calling our customer care executive.
Correct.
I mean, when are the last time you had a problem with your Airtel probably number and you call them up? You probably either chatted with them or like, if you're really impatient with the problem is really bad, you went and tweeted about it. Yeah.
It's because you said Airtel. I personally had a problem with the Wi-Fi and I kept looking within the application, but I did not want to talk to them. I just wanted the application, but there should be somewhere where I can just message. That's
Right.
it.
So we have, I think, Pratanu said that very right that we are living in a generation of attention overload. And this probably between a kind of a 20 to 45 or 20 to 50 or 51. Any time you are active, you're actively working, actively kind of engaging with people. Within that time frame, there are multiple things which are seeking attention from you. There's pings. Your phone is on an incessant ping. You are connected virtually 24/7. Because your phone is never really off. So in that attention overload thing, a call is seen as more intrusive, right? On the other hand, a WhatsApp or a chat, an in-app chat like a Swiggy does, or a WhatsApp message, it's a non-intrusive thing that I can check on time. India is the largest WhatsApp market, because we've been working with Meta, and we have natively integrated WhatsApp on Heo. Plus, obviously, we also offer it through MyOperator. Very proud that, two of our customers who both use WhatsApp, Big FM and Flutrr are on this call. So the shift towards WhatsApp and chat have been happening. And now, this is kind of building up. I'm not saying that voice has completely died, but definitely, the preference has shifted. I was just looking at some stats, and we've been looking at stats for some time. Within Gen Z, this preference is even more marked, because probably this is something that they started with, never had an option to call anyway. So there's a 85% of Gen Z prefer to chat or WhatsApp than basically interact over call. And this has been a global trend, because I started my career in Europe. Calling to someone was really, really expensive. Talking to someone, and this I'm talking about 2007, 8, like good 15, 16 years back from now. Even then, because there again in European countries is a different problem, because to pay a call center executive there, because the cost of human labor is high, they actively discourage you to call. And then there was chat, etc., that was already there prevalent there. India has probably caught up after 5, 6 years, but now it is kind of more or less a homogeneous world that we see it around. Chat in any form. In India, it is WhatsApp. In USA, it is iMessage. Someone it's probably Google Chat, but chat in any form has become the predominant means of communication. Now, as a technology company, we are responding to this. I think any good tech company should be adapting. Doesn't matter what I built 10 years back. Doesn't matter if that is proprietary tech and how much I've invested in it. If the world is moving in a certain direction, I either move in that direction or I become a Kodak, right? I try selling films when the digital camera is of age. So we have also been kind of moving our product portfolio towards a call plus WhatsApp stack, which is number one, and we have seen a very strong adoption in it. Again, I'll give the example of Heo here, which is a small and micro business startup focused app. We already are kind of sitting at around close to 10,000 WhatsApp accounts on it, and we see that number reaching even 1 million over the next 3 to 5 years. So we have been the largest kind of proponent, largest kind of channel through which people are adopting WhatsApp API, even in the remotest part of Bharat, because Heo is used by people in a Patna or a Jhansi or a Ranchi, way beyond just the Gurgaon and the Bangalore of the world. So this is one. Second is, I think, one of the things, one of the near-term revolution that has happened is actually generative AI. We are still using only a fraction of it. But, if we are kind of able to leverage it right, and we're able to roll out those tools for, say, a Flutter stream or a Big FM stream, think how easy things like campaigns become. Because when Pratham and I were talking some time back, they were rolling out when at the time of the T20 World Cup. Brands like Big FM were very visible, and they were running campaigns with a tune of million users probably per day. So in that kind of a dynamic environment where the attention span of your users are also shifting, how can you use something like a Gen AI to hyper-personalize campaigns, build campaigns on the fly, and then disseminate it through WhatsApp channels? That's another interesting area that we're working on, and we've already rolled it out to some users, and we hope to roll it out to more and more of our customers down the line. So I think the point I want to make is, as we grow more and more digital, the pace of change of technology is like kind of, we are probably at the fastest speed. We had companies some years back which have kind of lived 100 years. We have companies like an IBM which has been there 50, 60 years. But right now, even if you look at the span of a tech company to stay relevant, Google is already struggling. Google, you might have heard about Google's shares tanking because OpenAI said they're launching Search GPT. So so this is here we'll have to probably run double fast or even 5 times fast to just stay in the same place. So this is how we are responding as a tech company, understanding the consumer trends, understanding what are the communication channels that they want to use, making sure that we are offering those channels. And then we are also offering value addition on top of it. So for example, the Gen AI bit that I just talked about, that, you're not just offering them a channel, but you're offering them the tools to make
Mhm.
sure that the communication through those channels are super useful for your end user.
Makes sense. So I think, yes, you have just reiterated it very strongly that end of the day, WhatsApp, and then some parts of calling, clubbed with generative AI, which is anyways going to be the next big thing. It's there, but it's coming to front more than ever, will be the channel to go to. But so towards the last 10-15 minutes of this session, beyond which we'll take any questions if there are, unlike our usual webinars, which are more product focused, this time it is more concept focused. I think I'm not sure how many questions we might get, but I'm pretty sure this will be very useful for people who can extract information from books. Basically, they can read and they can get stuff out of it instead of us giving it out outrightly. Still, for the audience, if you have any questions for three of our guests, you can feel free to put it in chat or Q&A. We'll be more than happy to pick it towards the last 5 minutes of the session. But yes, last leg is me asking all of you, one by one, of course, if I am somebody who is into a business that is focusing on Generation Z as my target audience, could be a clothes brand, could be a apparel, shoes, could be a software if I'm developing, for example, like Flutter, right? So you're into dating, I could be developing something, say, something to find gym equipment maybe, okay, which is something that people are too fancy about these days. So what are those few things according to you when it comes to customer experience that has to be changed from the regular traditional thinking to the totally new, the next generation thinking? What has changed that drastically that it needs to be addressed and it needs to be done in the upcoming applications? Kaushik, if you would like to take this one.
Yeah. So, what has happened? I mean, I'm again going back to my generation where there was no TV, no remote, no internet, to a time now where everything is available at the click of a mouse. Okay, right. I mean, you want something, you just type it in Google, and yeah, now OpenAI will also learn search GPT, and you can get the answer. Okay. I
Correct.
mean, I'm just dreading whether schools will exist 5 years from now on. Okay, no. So anyway, that was just a comment aside. Okay, so what happens now is, and I have that experience in Flutter also. Consumer expectations and Gen Z expectations are evolving at a very rapid pace. Okay, right. Now, something new happens. Swiggy brings out a new offer. Gen Zs leave Zomato and flock to Swiggy. Then Zomato counters it by another offer. They all go back to Zomato. Okay, right. And so this behavioral change is happening because everything is available at the click of a mouse. Okay, right. Everything is temporary. Everything is transient. Everything is now. Okay, right. So obviously the patience level of the generation is much lower than, let's say, our old generation. Now, when you're building for such a scenario, okay, right, what you have to really keep in mind is agility, okay, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things which I think, will define startup success, if you're talking to a Gen Z audience, is agility. Okay, so there are different methods of building. Earlier, the methods of building were you do market research, then you do a product concept, then you go back and check the product concept, then you come back, build the product. All of that used to happen, right? Correct. Today, I think it is better for any business who's trying to address this market is to follow the path of do, measure, learn, reiterate. Okay, right? Which means you quickly talk to 10 users, do something,
Mhm.
measure it, what's happening, learn from it, and either go ahead with it or change it and adapt it. And all this in an agile manner, right? So I think this whole ball game today is do, measure, learn, that chain, and agility. Okay, right? So if you're building for this audience, then you have to be very, very agile because today what is working, 7 days down the line, it may not be working. Okay?
Right.
So you have to be very agile and you have to continuously do things, which means there should be no fear of failure and there should be no analysis paralysis. Okay, right? So you do things, you talk to 10 people, do things, bring out a product, hit the market, see what's happening, measure it, learn from it, adapt.
Fail fast.
Fail fast, not even fail fast, do things fast.
Correct.
Speed, okay, agility. So what I think will is required for founders who are wanting to get into this market are three things in my mind. One is commitment, which means that come what may, I'm going to stick to this idea. Okay, right, correct. Second is resilience. You will fall 7 times and you get up the 8th time. Okay. And the third is agility, which means how fast do I respond to the market. So commitment, resilience, and agility, three things will determine startup success if you're talking to a Gen Z audience. That's my piece.
That's great. Pratanu, what would you say in terms of, again, customer experience as a whole? What should we do?
So I'll pick up that word agility because Kaushik mentioned agility 2, 3 times. And my understanding of agility is not about speed, but here it would be about an interface, a platform, or an UI UX, which is able to manage the transitions well. So agility for me is managing the transitions well. I'll also explain why. Because I believe the Generation Z is more about lots of transitional experiences. First time in the college, teenage, first love, first time dating, first time proposal, first heartbreak, first job, first time going to the hostel, leaving house and going to a different city. So there are so many first experiences that this Generation Z would have gone through, and I'm sure you are just able to relate to a few things that I'm mentioning. So any platform which is able to manage transitions well, okay, transitions between two tabs, transitions between two different services inside the application, and also when MG was talking about the in-app chat, inside the in-app chat, coming back to what you ordered, then taking information, going back to the in-app chat. That transitions, I think somebody who's able to manage transitions well is going to sustain for a very long time. And I believe, because I'm now an advocate of radio here on behalf of the entire conventional media, radio, I believe, comes to you in a shopping mode. You are able to take radio till the last mile, right from from your house on your radio on your phone, then you stop it, radio in your car, you go to the mall, you push back radio onto your phone, go till the last mile, and you are still connected to radio. So I'm also relating this to all the transitions that a Gen Z goes through, and also trying to highlight the strength of radio, and also trying to highlight that any application UI or any platform, any media mix, which is able to manage transitions well, will be able to manage this problem forever.
Makes sense.
And also sustain.
Before I just ask Rimjin on about her statement, a quick question comes to mind that what do you think is that characteristic of Gen Z? Because while you were speaking, thought came into mind that what is Gen Z today? Well, eventually, like after 5-10 years, by the time these businesses that we are talking about are getting built today, they'll get established, settled, start, making their name in the world. This Generation Z will probably have another Generation Z of their own. Like 10 years down the line, I'll be 35, 36, and I'll have another generation of newcomers, more tech savvy than what I can consider myself or my younger brother, so to speak. So then what is that one characteristic of this current generation, Pratanu, according to you? Because you appeal to the maximum number of people. I mean, with Heo, we have around 2 million plus downloads. With Flutrr, we have 15K average daily users. But with radio, we have 34 plus crore people tuning in every day. So what do you think is that one characteristic which has to be played upon?
I think it is timelessness. So because the more you fight with the generation, the more you will always fall back, and generation will always move ahead, because the demand will always be faster than the supply, because that's the source of origin. And if you are really in sync with the requirement and you really feel what the generation really needs, I think you have to be timeless to a certain extent. Now that's exactly what Big FM is. Big FM plays timeless music, and we have not been repositioned from our position number one since years. That is what helps us sustain. timelessness is my answer to you.
Makes sense. Fair enough. Rimjim, finally coming to you because you're the tech person in all of this, that what do you think in terms of CX will be appealing to Gen Z? What should people incorporate in their product, service, whatsoever?
Pratanu na last line kind of really helped because every kind of generation comes and they think they are the coolest, and then then you realize that you soon you are you're becoming outdated. What stays is timelessness and relevance. So अभी जब मैं Big FM सुनती हूँ and they say ki, oh, Shahrukh's, you're going to hear, listen to Shahrukh DDLJ and that's cool retro music. I'm like, oh my God, when did I grow this old? It was the other day I was in school and this was like the hot and happening song. And suddenly it is retro. So, it's always a transient thing. So brands which understand that, consumer preferences are transitory. There are bigger tech trends like, Gen AI, for example, probably is kind of leading consumer behavior. There are bigger tech disruptions. So who are able to kind of keep tab of all of that, they kind of stay on. Having said, I still try to give you a specific answer. मुझे जो लगता है तीन चीजें, एक is you kind of hook attention in the shortest possible time. YouTube has defined a time, right? 6 seconds. 6 seconds or nobody cares, right? 6 seconds में आपने hook किया, नहीं किया. So that's all the time your app has to make an impression or your product has to make an impression. So, so that is one. Second is clutter free. हमारे lives और भी cluttered है. I think आगे वाले generation की lives even more cluttered. So, and I think people are increasingly going to crave simplicity, and it's always kind of, I've probably shared this example a lot of time. I had this, like 3 hours of soul searching discussion with Pratanu when I met him in Bombay. His son is, I think, 4 years old. My daughter is
almost 3, yeah.
My daughter is 9. I was like, by the time these people grow up, because I see my daughter already saying, मुझे technology नहीं चाहिए. I don't want to be like you. मुझे phone नहीं चाहिए. दूर हटाओ phone. So there's always this, kind of there's already too much clutter happening in these children's lives. So I think even in the Gen Z or the younger generation, as too much clutter happen, at some time your mind kind of shuts up. I was just reading an article before this, which actually says that Gen Z is now craving in-person experience because we are like getting lonelier and lonelier. So probably in a way, Gen Z or even the younger generation will be more social than, what we have been for the last 10, 15 years. So clutter-free, making your app and your service clutter-free and finding also a way to make it hybrid. While on the one hand, we are saying you don't like talking to people, the customer service, we might not like having meaningless conversations where it's not required. That call could have been saved and it could have been just a chat or an AI message. But doesn't mean that we've given up on real life, IRL experiences, so to speak, in your Gen Z lingo, in real life experiences altogether. So I love what Flutrr is doing. They're organizing a Friendship Day event, Friendship Day meetup this weekend in Kolkata. So, I think these hybrid kind of an approach, right? Especially on Gen Z focused apps, I think that is something that is going to keep your brand salient for a longer period of time, that, you're able to touch and feel the real brand. Where radio has kind of stayed relevant for so many years, like my dad talks of radio, my mom talks of radio, I'm still talking of radio, my daughter listens to radio. And she says, she also has a channel feed, isko chalao, usko chalao. Radio has been able to adapt this and have been able to really deliver, experiences that you're going to remember by. So in a world of attention overload, if your brand is able to craft experiences or able to create experiences that you can, that your consumer is going to remember you for, then you are a winner. And to kind of consistently do this, obviously you have to, you have to be innovative, you have to be creative. And as Kaushik said, you have to be super agile. Because you have to be doing this not one day, not 2 days, but you have to be doing this every day that you want to keep your brand salient.
But you cannot just like pack down, have a relaxing Sunday where the world is still changing. Not possible as much, is it? But I think that sums up our conversation pretty much. I think we have given people a lot to think about, a lot to use in their own entrepreneurial journeys, or if they are marketers or sales professionals, professional overall, they can use this to enhance their next upcoming strategy at their work. But thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, Pratnu, Rimjim, and Kaushik for joining us. This was a very different conversation for me on a CXth webinar, but I think this is still around CX, the CX that is going to change what is coming up next for the world, rather, not just India. Thank you so much, guys, once again for joining. It is a
Thank
pleasure
you.
speaking.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much, Sanit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.